Hey everyone, welcome back to A Brighter Future Starts Here. I'm Tracy Kawa, and you're watching a live Facebook show brought to you by the American Society for the Positive Care of Children. With us today, we have Bailey Huston of PACERS Center. And for those of you who don't know, PACERS Center is the originator of the National Bullying Prevention Month. So thank you so much for joining us, Bailey.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Absolutely. I would love to hear the atypical backstory for how PACER Center even started National Bullying Prevention Month.
Yes, I would love to tell that. So PACER Center is an advocacy organization for families of kids and young adults with disabilities. And we've been working in this space for over 40 years now. And the program that I specifically work in is our National Bullying Prevention Center. So that is the program that started the month and the campaign. And a little bit about how we first got started working in the space of bullying is in the early 2000s, we noticed an increase of calls from parents of kids with disabilities sharing that their child was experiencing bullying and they were really looking for resources. And, you know, as research shows, students with disabilities are bullied 2 to 3 times more likely for their peers. So that's really when we first started looking at the issue and saw that this was an issue that impacted all kids, including kids with disabilities. So in 2006, we formalized into the National Bullying Prevention Center. And as we started talking more about this issue, really saw the need for some kind of campaign that could bring communities together. So schools, businesses, communities, individuals to really be talking about the role that we all play. So we first started it as a week-long awareness week and really just saw how different schools and organizations were getting involved. So from there, it grew into a month-long campaign of National Bullying Prevention Month. So it's the month of October. And what's so great about it is it's really a time that anyone can get involved, whether you're an individual or you're a business or you're a community group or a school. It's really a time for all of us to get involved and show our support and kind of raise awareness for this issue.
Wow, I really love how the organization took something, discrimination, so to speak, that was happening in one niche and then expanded it to make really everybody a little bit responsible for what was happening and to make it more inclusive.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, a lot of our messaging at PACER, especially having the background of being a disability organization, has always been on advocacy. And so both advocacy for ourselves. So for students, if you're experiencing bullying, what are some ways that you can be a self-advocate? But then also what are ways that we can advocate for others, especially students who are being bullied. And I think you'll see that in a lot of the resources that we put out, you know, especially around the month of October. It's like we can all be advocates for this issue. And, you know, I think so much of the way that we approach it is that it is a community issue. And it's not just up to our organization or up to one school. It's really, you know, this broader issue that bullying doesn't just happen at school. It can happen on sports teams. It can happen in community centers, online. That's a big one that we're seeing. So it's no longer just this issue that is up to schools. It's really kind of up to all of us to be looking at it and kind of seeing what our role is.
And if you think about it, later in life, it also happens quite often in the workplace. And we hear a lot about that, especially in more recent years. So if it's not put in check, it kind of grows and exacerbates and follows people throughout life.
Definitely. And, you know, the way we approach it too is not only providing resources for how to address it, but also ways to prevent it. Because at the end of the day, when you look at bullying, it's really a behavior, and a behavior is something that can be changed. And especially if we can address it in these kind of schooling years of K through 12th grade, that then provides implications later on, you know, students who are addressing this behavior when they're in school directly. And so much we talk about behaviors we don't want to see, specifically when it comes to bullying, but now we're really also trying to promote those behaviors we do want to see in kids, things like kindness and acceptance and inclusion. And I think those are really important messages, not just for kids, but really for all of us. And when we have those as the foundation of schools and communities, we're way more or less likely to see bullying happen as well.
Absolutely. Compassion, empathy, understanding, inclusivity. It really all goes hand in hand, wouldn't you say?
100%. And, it's really those core messages of showing kindness, practicing inclusion, sharing acceptance. Those are such, core foundations of what we're really trying to do, because those three are kind of the trifecta of when you're having those as a foundation of schools and what students are really practicing. You're so much, again, more or less likely to see bullying, because we're not tolerating those other behaviors of exclusion or not accepting others or being hurtful. They're kind of the opposite of these bullying behaviors. And especially as an organization that's been working in the space now for over 15 years, we really kind of have seen that dialogue change. And I think schools have responded really well to kind of that positive approach of what are behaviors we want to see in students and what are ways that we really can encourage and develop those.
Absolutely. I remember a few years back, quite a number of years back, I went through a transformational training program. And I remember one of the key elements was having us imagine and experience and feel what it's like to be in someone else's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And training like that is so important for sensitivity and to just create awareness of what others or how others are thinking and feeling.
Definitely. And especially with bullying too, we see a lot of different reasons about why students may bully, whether it's for power or control, maybe they're trying to fit into a new friend group, maybe they're being bullied themselves. But I think, especially with these campaigns, if we can really be talking about what the impact of bullying is, and that it's not something that just has short-term impacts, it has a long-term impact as well. I think, a lot of adults we talk with that experience bullying growing up, that still impacts them, today. And I think really like having these conversations about bullying isn't just a part of growing up, or it's not just teasing, or it's not just kids will be kids. It really is a hurtful behavior that can have not only impact on a student's education, but their physical health, their emotional health, making them feel isolated from others, anxiety, depression, things like that. It's really important to be talking about these impacts to kind of break some of these myths that have been around for so long. I know, especially when I was growing up, and I think some people watching this may have heard it too of, kids will be kids, or it makes you tougher, or just stand up to them. But as research has really come out about bullying, we know that those aren't true. And that's why, conversations like this are so important, to really dive into the impact and what are some ways we can prevent kids from having to go through experiences like that.
Yeah, that's so critical. And like you said, there's a ripple effect that occurs. It isn't a contained, isolated experience. Bullying can follow someone into later years. Bullying can affect other people that are not involved in the immediate incident, but a person can then mimic this bad behavior, so to speak, and it trickles on down the line.
Completely. It has a whole impact on, school climate, community climate, students feeling safe at school. I mean, especially even looking at, bystanders in a bullying situation, about how that can impact them. There's been a lot of studies of really showing that it doesn't just impact the student who is experiencing bullying. It has impacts on both the student who's doing the behavior, but also the ones that might be witnessing it. And, one thing that we're really trying to do at PACER too is, especially for those students that are witnessing bullying, they have such a big role to play when it comes to having the power to make a difference, and really just kind of providing them with those toolbox of options of, as students, you're often the first ones to see bullying happening, and your peers are often more likely to listen to you. So what are some ways that, we can really empower students in the solution, whether it's something that they're seeing happening or it's happening to them? It doesn't mean they're responsible for handling on their own. It just means that they have power in the situation and they have choices of ways to take action. So that's a big part of what we do. And I think that comes from our advocacy background a little bit, of both advocating for others and advocating for yourself. But, I think that's such a powerful skill, not only for bullying situations, but it's something that, you can use later on in life, of just having that skill of advocacy.
Absolutely. Advocacy is so important. And like you said, it's about power and choices and action. Because at the end of the day, Bailey, what we don't want to become is a society of bystanders,
Mhm.
accepting any type of behavior, right?
Yeah,
Treat others as you want to be treated, right?
completely. And the thing too that's amazing is, so often we hear from students that they see bullying and they want to take action, but they're not sure how.
Mm,
And it's so powerful when one student speaks up or stands up, others are so much more likely to then follow and do the same. And so, like you were saying, with this ripple effect, our words, our actions can really have the power to make the difference. And, I think when people first started talking about bystanders, a lot of the immediate suggestion for action was to get in the middle of it or to say something. But we know that's not always safe for all kids to do, and that might not be something that all kids feel comfortable doing.
right.
So really talking about like what are other action steps that you can take. And there's been, research done where they interviewed students who experienced bullying and said, what did someone do that made the situation get better or that helped? And the number one thing that kids said was that they talked to me or that they listened to me. And I think that response is so telling of how isolating bullying feels, about how you really feel, that you're not seen, that no one cares what's happening to you. But it really shows like the power of peers, that it doesn't mean you have to go and get in the middle. Like, even if it's going up to that person after and saying, hey, I saw what happened. That wasn't okay. I'm here for you. Or you're not alone. Or, inviting that person to sit with you at lunch later. Or, going back to those things of showing inclusion and showing kindness. It's like that really has a lot of power of taking someone from feeling alone and isolated to really feeling valued and seen in a school environment. So that's a lot of what we really talk about with students, is just like knowing you have a lot of options of what you can take. And it's all about finding what works best for you and what you feel empowered to do with choices. But, really like reaching out and being there makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, and I could understand that when it comes to validating, right? Because we all want to be validated. We
Completely.
all want someone to understand what it is that we're going through, what we're thinking, how we're feeling.
Definitely. And that's one thing I always say, to parents or adults as well, is bullying is a really hard thing for a lot of kids to talk about. So chances are, if someone's coming to you, you might be the first person that they told about what's happening. So like you were saying, Tracy, those responses of validation and really giving them the opportunity to tell their story and feel heard is such an important response. And really like reinforcing those messages that I'm here for you. You're not alone. We'll tackle this together. Those are such powerful responses to have as well, of really kind of giving students some of that power back, because so much about bullying is about power and control, and students who experience it really losing that power in the situation. So having a response that gives them that back and allows them to be involved in the solution can be super powerful. And for parents, it's really hard, I think, to respond, especially when you've heard about your child being hurt, and really easy to have an emotional response. And I think, taking that time to just let your child really tell their story and listening and validating them is such, a great way to give them some of the power back.
Yeah,
That's
that's
true.
think about
Times past.
I'm hearing
Hearing
it.
it.
Hearing a little less. I'm hearing it on your end.
Yeah, you're good on my end.
Okay, good. I'm thinking about the times when I ask my boys how everything's going, and then they'll start to tell my story, and then they'll stop. Oh, mom, you get too emotional, or we don't want you involved. So that's another point that you made me think about. How often might a child really feel heard when another student steps up to them and says, I saw what happened, as opposed to a parent asking that child, how was your day or what happened? And the child doesn't want to speak about it.
Right. Because it's really hard for kids to do that, whether they're worried about the situation getting worse if they report it, or they think that they need to handle it on their own. There's a lot of reasons why kids and teens might not tell an adult. There was a study done that showed about 64% of kids who experience bullying didn't report it to an adult. So that's a big chunk of kids that are really keeping that in. And so, like you were saying, having those conversations with your child of really asking those open-ended questions is so key to kind of, pulling some of that information out, because it's a really tough thing to just bring up and talk about. Some kids might feel like they deserved it, which is never the case, or that, again, they have to handle it on their own. So as a parent, if you maybe see some of those signs that your child might be going through, just keeping those questions open-ended and kind of starting to get that information from them, I think can make it a little bit easier, because it's never an easy thing to talk about, I think, for any kid.
Absolutely. Another thought that I'm having ties back to a previous interview that I did with Max Schlachter, who, as many, of the people in the public know, his son, Alex, was killed in the Parkland shooting. And Max created Safe Schools for Alex, an organization. And through that organization, he created the incident reporting dashboard that many of the schools and many of the states are beginning to adopt.
Right.
So this leads to another whole conversation about how much of these bullying incidents are being reported. And as they become more and more commonplace to report,
right,
that will perpetuate and give the reporting itself more momentum. Wouldn't you say?
Completely. And I think, one thing that we've seen too is just with schools' policies changing. Now every state does have a law or policy when it comes to bullying prevention, which is really amazing. But like, you were saying, I think giving students those tools of to report, but also letting them know what happens after you report is really empowering, and knowing that like schools are going to be taking action and what are some of the repercussions. And that's why, especially with events like National Bullying Prevention Month, like such a great time for schools to be talking with their students about what resources do we have available for you? What can you do if you're experiencing bullying? Whether that's letting them know that the school counselors are there for them, or who they can report bullying to, or what the school's, approach is on it. Because a lot of times students might not know that information. So, especially with October being really close to back to school season and everyone kind of coming back, it can be such a good time for schools to be kind of having these yearly conversations. It's not something that we just do once, and it also shouldn't be something that we're just doing in October. It's a bigger conversation, but it's a great way to kick it off in October, of really like reminding students what our policy is, what can you do, and that we as educators, as school staff, as counselors, that we're really here to support you, and to make sure that everyone is feeling safe and supported at our schools.
I love it. I love it. So since you brought it up, where can someone go? I'm going to flash it on the screen, and maybe you can talk about it a little bit. Where can somebody go for more resources?
Yes. So our website, as below, pacer.org/bullying. That is a great resource for anyone looking either to get involved or looking for help when it comes to bullying prevention. We have everything from free lesson plans for educators. We have a whole hub for parents on what you should know about bullying and ways to help your child. We have videos, informational handouts, so much good information on there, including ways to get involved this month in October if you're interested. And when you go to that website, you can also find more about our websites that we have just for kids and just for teens, which are great for parents, teachers, anyone that has, kids or teens that might want some more information. But definitely would recommend checking out our website just to get some more about what we do as an organization and all of the resources that we have. And I think one of the great things that I really love is all the resources are free. So anyone that's looking for help in a situation or maybe wants to get involved in their own community, there's a lot of really good tools and resources on that website of how to get started.
That's fantastic. And I love how it's broken down into categories. So there's something for parents, and there's something for teachers, school administrators, and there's something for children. So kudos to PACERS for offering that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we know too, the way that parents and teachers are approaching it, it's a little different of how to approach it in your classroom versus how to approach it at home. So we really try and provide, these tailored resources for everyone involved, because like I mentioned, we have that community approach. And so we really want to make sure we're having resources available for everyone that's part of it, and really kind of supporting them through that.
I am so glad that you just mentioned community, because I've been dying to circle back to this whole community approach that you spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
Tell us, how are community businesses getting involved? How do you have doctors? And I know you mentioned in an offline conversation with me about bakeries. Tell our audience, I'm sure they'd love to hear about it.
Yes.
This would also spark ways that they can get involved.
Definitely. So one of my favorite things about the month of October is really seeing how creative businesses and community groups get when it comes to how they want to raise awareness in their own communities. So for example, we had one orthodontist office that during the month of October encouraged their patients to get orange bands on their braces. Orange is the color of the month of October. So they encouraged everyone to get orange bands. And for every patient that got orange bands, they made a donation back to the school's bullying prevention efforts. We had a local bakery that sold orange cupcakes and orange cookies to really show their support for the issue. We've had schools change their school landmarks outside their school orange for the month. So there was one school that had, I believe it was like a jaguar, and it wore an orange shirt throughout the entire month of October. And, you know, along those lines, one really fun thing a couple years ago was we're based here in Minnesota, and in Blue Earth, Minnesota, where Green Giant is, they have a 63-foot Green Giant statue who, for the month of October, wore an orange toga. So it's just really fun. And I think the great thing about October is it's totally up to you to customize how you want to get involved, big or small. Like, what's really great is that ripple effect that it has of someone seeing that you're getting involved, or someone seeing that orange and sparking that conversation, because that's really where we have change start to happen, when we're having these conversations in communities. So again, on our website, we have a whole guide on how you can get involved. We do free posters, things like that. So would definitely recommend checking that out if you are interested in getting involved in October. It's only the 6th, so there's still a lot of time. And our signature event is coming up on October 20th called Unity Day. And so the call to action is really to wear and share orange on that day to show a visible message for our support of students who experience bullying, and really show that we as a community want to create safe and supportive schools, communities, and online spaces. So there's more on our website about that as well, but that is on October 20th if anyone watching is interested in participating.
That is awesome. I love that, Unity Day.
Me too. One of my quick favorite stories from Unity Day is, again, like, we have entire schools or communities that wear orange. And a couple years ago, I got an email from a teacher that worked at a middle school, and she had a new 6th grader who had experienced bullying in elementary school. And when she walked in for Unity Day, she proclaimed it as her national holiday and said that she wasn't worried about experiencing bullying in middle school after seeing this event and seeing how many staff and students were coming together and wearing orange. So that's really what it's all about, is, you know, sending this visible message of support, especially, you know, for students who experience bullying, that they're not alone, and that we as communities are here for them. And again, just like continuing and encouraging those conversations.
I love that story.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites to always share.
You know what? Just like National Bullying Prevention Month was started by PACERS, maybe I should also start like a national holiday, Unity Day. I will adopt that as my.
Okay, yeah, so we'll make Unity Day the national holiday. And you know what's great is, like, people celebrate in all of their own ways throughout the month on different days or in different ways. And this is really like the one day that we're encouraging everyone to kind of do the one thing together, and that unifying day. And it's really about, you know, preventing bullying, but also about uniting for kindness and acceptance and inclusion. So yeah, it's one of my favorite days. I love seeing all the photos that come in for it. We do a hashtag. It's just Unity Day 2021. So I love seeing all the photos of how people are celebrating. And it's just a really, you know, I think a really feel good day about unity and about that we're all for kindness and acceptance and inclusion. And I think it's really fun to see how creative people get when it comes to celebrating.
Well, give us some ideas. Don't leave us in suspense until
I
then.
won't. So we do.
Meet again.
So it's on October 20th. It's a Wednesday. Yep.
So some ideas of what people can do.
Yes.
The
easiest thing to do is to wear orange. So we do sell orange t-shirts. Those are available on our website, but whether it's orange nail polish or an orange headband, orange socks, wearing orange is a great way to do it. And as well, sharing, whether it's on social media or with your friends and family about why you're wearing orange. Those are two really easy ways to do it. But we also have free posters. So if you're, a business owner or you work in a school, you can order those posters to display to show your support. We've had one community that did a Unity Day parade. We've had local bridges turn orange. So, you can always reach out to local landmarks to see if they want to participate. Yeah. So, it's really about lighting up the country orange. So, again, whether that's wearing an orange shirt yourself or doing something in your school or community when it comes to the color, it's, I think, really cool to know that others around the country and the world, we've had a lot of schools internationally participate in this as well, which is really fun. But that everyone's kind of coming together on this one day for the same cause.
That is awesome.
It's really fun.
PACERS Center is doing amazing work. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that you are just the perfect promoter for this type of work. You are just so awesome, with sharing this information, and kudos to you.
Thank you. And I think a part of, what makes all of us on this team so passionate is really seeing the impact that these resources can have. And, especially knowing the impact that bullying has on students. It gives us all a lot of passion to be really supporting communities and schools and the work that they're doing. And there's some amazing, amazing schools and groups out there that we work with. And we're really just here to support them and what they're doing. And, we're all on the same team when it comes to having the same mission of really making sure students are safe and supported. So any way that we can do that, that's what we're here for as an organization. And we'll keep being here. So again, our website is a great place to find kind of some more about what we do. There's no way I think I could talk about all of it in this episode, but
back.
Yes. Yep. So there's, again, pacer.org/bullying is a great place to find anything. We also have our Instagram, which is below. And we, one fun thing we're actually doing in the month of October is we're doing some polls on Instagram where you can see other people's opinions and thoughts and some different things, and have lots of fun stuff planned throughout the month. So following us on social is a great way to make sure that you are the first to know about all of those things.
That's so exciting. Okay, we're definitely going to promote Instagram, Pacer_NBPC. Get involved. So a couple of last questions. Do you have some tips for parents and caregivers? Just some real direct focus, something that they can do, let's say today or this week?
Yeah, great question. And I think a big one is just, if you haven't yet had that conversation with your child about bullying, I always recommend, having it early and often, kind of like the same way your kid goes to the mall for the first time when you're talking about safety at the mall and things like that. It's really great to be doing those things when it comes to bullying, about talking about what bullying is and what steps students can take if they experience it. Our kids and teen websites are really great resources that parents can always go through with their kid. We have interactive resources on there, videos, things like that. So those are really great hubs, I think, for parents to check out and kind of go through with their kids as well. And the biggest thing that I would say is if you do hear from your child that they're experiencing bullying, just reinforcing those facts that you are there for them and they're not alone are huge. And checking with the school on what their school policy is when it comes to addressing bullying, that can always be really helpful. But I think, when it comes to moving forward in action steps, of really finding ways to involve your child in the solution is so important, of giving them some of that power back. And again, on our website, we have a whole hub for parents on what you should know about bullying. And I always recommend checking that out because we have everything from information on the dynamics of bullying, laws and policies, and how to find your state policy when it comes to bullying, and ways to really help your child, whether that's bullying in person or online too. We have some great cyberbullying resources. So, you know, I always say to parents, like, it's a really hard thing. And like I was saying before, you know, it's completely understandable that there's a lot of emotions that come with finding out that your child has been hurt or harmed. And those are completely normal and valid reactions to have. And, you know, I think if we can keep the focus on what are ways to validate the child and really let them know that we're here for them and that, you know, we'll get through this together, I think are such powerful messages.
Yeah. And Bailey, your last thoughts on promoting kindness, acceptance, inclusion, empathy, compassion. Any last thoughts on that?
I think it's just such a key thing to really, you know, be promoting those. And I think especially as an organization that's been working in the space for 15 years, like kids have learned a lot about bullying in school. And I think, you know, if we can start to really be reinforcing these positive messages of, you know, it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everyone, but you can be kind to everyone and you can be inclusive and you can show acceptance. I think those are just really key foundational messages that are important not only for kids, but adults, because adult role models are so important when it comes to this issue as well. But, you know, the best part about kindness is it's free. Everyone can give it. And I think one great thing about this month is really reinforcing, like, when we show things like inclusion and kindness and acceptance, that can have such a bigger impact than you might ever know on someone. And that ripple effect of really, like, one act of kindness can impact another person, and that whole ripple effect down the row. So I think it's just a great time to be talking about it and what are ways that we can show that not only in schools, but in communities as well and online. Whether that's positive comments or, you know, sharing uplifting positive messages. I think there's just so much that we can do. So, you know, our whole message at PACER is really that together we can create a world without bullying. And I think it's when we work together as communities of sharing these encouraging messages that we can really start working towards that.
That's awesome, awesome, awesome. And I love, love, love what you said about you don't have to be best friends with everyone, but you do have to respect everyone.
Right.
You have to show kindness.
Exactly.
And that's a valuable lesson for children and adults, and for adults to model in front of children.
Completely.
Thank you so much for being here today, Bailey. And
Yes.
kudos to you and your team. We love what the organization is doing. PACERS Center as the National Bullying Prevention Month champion, you know, just kicking that off and just having everyone in the nation adopt that. And for all of our listeners to remember to check in on October 20th.
Yeah, October 20th. And thank you again for having me. So much of what October is about having conversations like this and really, you know, talking about things like what the impact of bullying is and what we can all do. So this is a perfect example of what we're really just trying to do in the month of October, and that's sparking conversation. So thank you again for having me on as well.
Absolutely. Sparking conversation and spreading the word.
Completely.
Right? So to our audience, if you know someone who is doing amazing things in their community, like PACERS Center is doing, or like Bailey and her team are doing, please feel free to reach out to us at americanspcc.org and visit us at americanspcc.org. We have a whole learning center, resource center as well. And remember, a brighter future starts here.